Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different where we're going to talk about the top 5 races in most need of an update. Please bear in mind that this could be something minor to a complete and utter overhaul. And I'm also just not listing these factions in regards to the player but also for the AI, as some of these races and factions have had their AI dumbed down quite dramatically in the most recent updates. But without further ado, let's begin. For our 5th spot, we have the vampire counts. Does anyone remember the vampire counts? No? Just me? Yeah, I can understand. You see, the vampire counts got a rework in Total War Warhammer 2, which introduced the bloodline system, and it should have made them a bit more powerful, considering the fact that a few factions were moved, everything was done a bit better, and the introduction of these pseudo-legendary lord types should have made them a little bit stronger. With that update, many people thought that we might see the vampire counts become a problem once again. Instead, the vampire counts, specifically the AI, seems to get dumber, where, well, we don't see them anymore, do we? Normally the vampire counts are either wiped off very early on, or they won't leave Sylvania. Barring the very random occurrence where Vlad von Carstein seems to want to go travelling the world for some reason. It's almost like he's decided to take a gap year from university and travel the world in an effort to go find himself. There is a healthy amount of different vampire count factions throughout the Mortal Empires campaign, and still they don't seem to move. There's a big concentration of them throughout the Old World, that of the Sylvanian vampires, Heinrich, and obviously the Red Duke, and then in the Southlands there's a decent amount too, but in most cases they're either destroyed off very quickly or you just don't see them move whatsoever. Gone are the days when the vampire counts used to form rather large empires in the Total War Warhammer maps. Yeah, I'm not saying that they should return to that because it got a little bit ridiculous, but it would be nice to see the vampire counts become a threat once again. There have been times that I've literally taken over most of the world and they've just been standing there doing absolutely nothing. This is just one of those minor updates that we need, making the vampires a little bit more aggressive. Nothing too drastic, but you know, you'd expect Legions of Undeath to at least be a bit more active. The same would go for our 4th spot, the Vampire Coast. Have the Vampire Coast ever been a real threat? I mean, seriously. I'm obviously talking more about the AI instead of the player, because obviously the player can do a lot more than the AI at this point. It seems that the Vampire Coast suffer the same fate as the Vampire Counts. They only seem to recruit one active army at the same time. That army will start randomly traveling across the world, eventually causing some problems for one faction or two, but eventually they'll get destroyed and that's pretty much it. Yes, they'll recruit another army eventually, but it's usually around low to mid-tier units, nothing really too powerful. They won't even build up a sort of empire. In some random cases, they'll capture a town or a city, sometimes a full region, but then when the army gets destroyed, they'll completely forget about it. There's a bit of a theme here when it comes to the undead factions, and truthfully it's quite the shame. The vampires of the Warhammer Fantasy universe are known to be much more active than this, so here's hoping that we'll get some sort of AI rework soon. Our 5th and 4th spot were very minor in terms of what was needed. Now we're going to start hitting the bulk of this video. For our 3rd spot, we have the Warriors of Chaos. Oh boy. So for a faction hell-bent on laying waste to the known world, they seem to be rather incompetent at it, considering the fact that the faction itself is rather lackluster, missing a ton of well-known units, god-specific ones at that. The Horde system has made them one of the most boring factions to play. The lack of different starting positions means that you'll most likely not play them more than once, and when it comes to them being an AI faction, well, do you really even get to see them nowadays? They normally just get deleted by minor factions. Players at least can work around this by focus building 1 or 2 hordes at the same time and doing damage and pillaging with others. That being said, the tech tree does not make things any easier for the player, as it's quite outdated in terms of standard, also locking the tech tree behind an ever-increasing paywall where you're normally forced to pick if you're going to recruit units, build up your horde camp, or try and get some technology out. In most cases at this point, you'll find yourself very behind in terms of technology, so you won't be able to get the much needed buffs that you'll need for your late game units until very late on, much later than all other factions who by that point will already completed their tech trees. Even then, some of those technologies you can pretty much go without. They're not really essential and rather forgettable. Then there's the issue of the AI faction of Warriors of Chaos when you're playing as anyone else. The Chaos Invasion itself is really nothing more than a nuisance. They come in, they get deleted by minor factions fairly easy, mainly because they come so late into the game that by that point all the minor factions still standing are rather powerful. Even in harder difficulties, when more armies spawn for the Warriors of Chaos, they just get destroyed fairly easily. For a faction based around a character known as the Lord of the End Times, it doesn't really feel that way, does it? Thankfully, we're aware that the Warriors of Chaos are getting a major rework in Total War Warhammer 3, or else they would have placed higher on our list. But now let's move towards our second spot, the Beastmen. Why are the Beastmen higher in this list than the Warriors of Chaos? Well, simply put, the Warriors of Chaos at least at one point or another were a threat in the game series, whereas the Beastmen are literally that forgettable. They are probably one of the, or if not the most weakest faction in the whole of the Total War Warhammer series. Maybe they can present to be a problem very early game, and I mean stressing out the word maybe very heavily. The army itself is lacking any iconic units such as the Gorgon, the Jabberslife and so on. It suffers the same fate as the Warriors of Chaos, being another Horde faction, which yes, it does make sense for the Beastmen to be a Horde faction, but the system itself needs a complete and utter overhaul. Much like the Warriors of Chaos, they also have a limiting factor within their technology tree, which, yeah, is stuck behind a paywall that you can technically ignore, but the longer you ignore the paywall section, the longer it takes to get some technology out, considering that it takes longer and longer each time. The player doesn't generally have too much of a problem for any hordes they wish to hide out and build up without being disturbed, but the AI seems to make the same mistake over and over, revealing themselves at the worst possible time. When do you really see a Beastmen horde becoming a problem at any point? Generally, any Beastmen factions pretty much get destroyed very early on in the game. Those who manage to stay alive for mid to late game aren't really that strong either. Seeing as they've normally taken beating beyond beating, it's more than likely their armies are normally filled up with very basic core units. That being said, it's kind of funny that the Beastmen have received the same amount of treatment as they did in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, so I guess we can laugh about that, but they do desperately need an update. But with that, let's look towards the faction in most need of an update, more than anyone else, that of the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves have changed drastically since their implementation in Warhammer 1. The AI has moved from two opposite sides of the spectrum quite dramatically. First, in Warhammer 1, they were seeming to be one of the most genocidal races there, being more of a threat than the Warriors of Chaos, and then being updated to be an isolationist race that doesn't really leave Athaloran. Like seriously, when was the last time the Wood Elves ever left Athaloran? Every now and then you might see them move into Bretonnia, or the mountains surrounding it, but then they just go back. Funnily enough, this is actually rather lore-friendly. The Wood Elves don't generally tend to leave Athaloran or any of the other magical forests they inhabit, but in Total War Warhammer, that's not really needed, is it? You never really see them much, meaning that unless you're actively seeking them out, you're never really going to fight Wood Elves in combat. As frustrating as this can be, nothing really compares to how they are for the player. Right, so this is the big one. There are a lot of problems with the Wood Elves. This faction suffers more than anyone else in terms of paywall. Your race is split into two different sections. Those are the Wood Elves and those are the Treekin. If you play as the Wood Elf, you'll need to spend Amber, a very limited resource, on your Treekin. If you play as your Treekin, you need to spend Amber on your Wood Elves. The concept is okay, I guess. It doesn't really affect you for early game units, they don't cost any Amber, but mid to late game units, yeah. And seeing as the fact as Amber is a weird resource, you have to either be allied to someone who holds a lot of territories or capture those territories yourself, you won't get a lot of Amber. Now, that Amber itself doesn't generate over and over, it's a one-time thing, which can become a bit of a problem as you don't need Amber for just units, but also for some technology and to upgrade the Oak of Ages. But we'll get to all that in a second, let's just keep talking about the units for a while. Seeing as the fact that you need Amber for these units, it can become a bit of an issue, as if you don't have any Amber, you're basically limited to how many units you can recruit. Think of this like the Steel and Faith Overhaul mod, where you have some limitations on how many units you can recruit, but the Wood Elves are the only faction with that limitation. It's rather ridiculous, especially around late game where you kinda need a few cheese stacks. Not because you want to, but mainly because the enemy that you're fighting is bringing way too many doom stacks of their own. Now, it's the same thing with your technology. There's a paywall which is also Amber, which can become a bit of a problem considering that Amber is that limited. You can try and form alliances to get more Amber, or you can try and take over cities, but the problem lies in two different things. Firstly, if you're forming alliances to get amber, how many times has there been that you've seen an ally of yours request for you to join a war and you felt forced to decline it, where then you've probably lost out on so much amber that it's put you into a deficiency and caused you more problems. Also, when you try to take over cities, you can't really defend them too well as you don't have a very good garrison, and seeing as you can't upgrade those garrisons to make them stronger, those cities will then eventually be destroyed, especially if you feel forced to move your armies away from that area to somewhere else within your borders, as you might be getting attacked somewhere else. The whole amber system is the biggest flaw here. Tying one specific currency to a multitude of different mechanics, functions and so on, it's just a bit difficult to realistically manage. But these were our top 5 races in the Total War Warhammer series that are in most need of a faction rework. What do you guys think? Do you think any other factions or races need it more than these? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. Just a little bit of a disclaimer here, I love the Total War Warhammer series, and I'm complaining about it in this video mainly because I want to see these factions brought up to snuff. I want to see these factions get reworked and give me a reason to play them once again. After more than 3,000 hours into this series, I'm still nowhere near bored. I just want to see the races and factions that have suffered somewhat a bit of neglect to get a bit of an update. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below, we have various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team, talk to us about Total War, Warhammer, or just anything really. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could get loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Purchasing using this link and also using our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons, your support means the world to us. Honestly, it's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to our patrons Gibraltar LUSC and Ryan Bertsche for subscribing to us at our fame level. Honestly, you guys are super cool. And a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, the channel's been growing a lot lately and it's all thanks to you guys. Without you, the Great Book would be nothing. We're trying to implement more videos into the channel soon, but we're getting stuff done outside of YouTube at the moment, just like artwork and so on for the channel. It's just taking a little while to get everything to look to a standard that we feel is cool. Honestly guys, thank you so much for all the support lately, it's been amazing. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.